What's up, everybody? Welcome back. Happy Skews Day to you. This is a remote edition for me, at least. I'm coming to you from my hotel room in Bozeman, Montana. We're going to push through. We're going to have a good time either way. That's why I got the earbuds in, all that stuff. The microphone might sound a little different, but bear with us. We're going to have a good time. It is Tuesday, March 21st, 2023. I'm Trey Crowder. That's Mark Agee. What's up, Mark?
What's up, Trey? My microphone's better than it used to be, but anybody that's still listening to this is fine with not that great sound anyway, as we all know. I just had some leftover Chinese food, boss. I'm feeling good. I think.
What's your favorite? What was it? What's your go-to? Because like you eat pretty healthy most of the time, don't you? So what do you get from a Chinese place?
I got some wonton soup and some filet mignon and asparagus and red peppers. I forget what the dish is called, but it's really good.
Okay.
I think Chinese might be my favorite leftovers. I know people go pizza, but I think I go Chinese.
I don't know. Chinese and any kind of Italian food, they're the leftovers are good. They're solid. The flavors meld. You heat them up, they don't lose anything. I do appreciate that. Seems like maybe noodles are the key ingredient outside of pizza, of course, but pizza just stands alone. Pizza's in its own tier. You can eat pizza cold straight out the fridge, or you can heat it up and it's not as good, but it's still pretty good. Put it in the air fryer. A lot of options with pizza. But like anything with noodles and sauce, you microwave it, it's probably going to be pretty good.
Yeah. Shout out to our Guido cousins for inventing, hidden leftovers. Before we get to the show today, so Los Angeles school district is on shut down for the next 3 days because of a strike from support workers. They're looking for a 30% pay increase because they can't afford to live in Southern California on whatever you make driving a school bus and doing janitor shit, which I understand and fully support because I can barely make it more money than that. So this teachers walked out also in solidarity, and I want to say, like, we talked about the railroad strike a lot recently, and it sort of lost. Yeah, people want pay raises, but like also for like public safety reasons. Like the railroad workers are trying to say that like something like the East Palestine thing was coming, and then it of course came. But like, do you want a school bus driver who's sleep deprived because he's working 2 other jobs?
Right.
That's that's your kids' lives.
Yeah. So I'm not trying to diminish any of this. I'm just genuinely kind of intrigued by it because, like, I've only ever lived in Burbank since I moved to the Los Angeles area. And, like, one of the first things I noticed was that they don't have school, but there are no school buses. Like my kids walk to school. My son's school, they don't have buses. I didn't even know buses were a thing in the Los Angeles school district, but apparently they are in the other with the other schools and whatever else. But yeah, that's the type of thing. It's like people are, they want to get pissed off or call them lazy. It's like, how much money these people want? Just enough to not have to also work at Burger King or wherever to be able to afford to live in Southern California. I'm constantly amazed at people's resilience and ability to live. Cause like, look, without getting too much into my finances, I'm fucking having 2 kids in school and living in Southern California. I'm all the time like, this is outrageous. How do people afford this fucking place? Right. And it's like, I do pretty well. And I see other parents at school pickup wearing like a Vons outfit, they work at the grocery store or something like that, just like regular working people. And like, that shouldn't be shocking. It shouldn't be surprising. Regular working people should be able to afford to fucking live, right?
Yeah.
But it is surprising because the world we live in. Every time I see those people, I'm like, I literally just want to grab them by the shoulders and be like, how do you do this? Like, how are you here? You have children in this place with like, it blows my mind. So
yeah. I've seen school buses around. Also, they were picketing at a bus yard. Started pre-dawn out here in the San Fernando Valley, and I want to shout out to a teacher / skewer. What do you call the viewers?
Skewers, I think. Yeah.
Named Kelly. Don't use her last name. Who hit us up on Twitter and invited us out to the picket lines. But I had to work all day prepping the show, and you were in Bozeman, so we couldn't make it. But wish you guys the best of luck and solidarity forever to Kelly and her fellow teachers and supporting the support workers. Also, before we get to the show, I want to do a quick hitter updates on 3 dipshits who we love to talk about. We talked about Congressman Andy Ogles recently. He's the guy who lied about his resume before he got elected, pretended he was like a cop, anti-sex trafficking expert, economist. All that stuff was made up. A lot about when and where he got his degree. It turns out he also he started a GoFundMe after his baby was stillborn, which condolences to him for that, him and his family.
Yeah.
No one knows where the money went. Like, he was supposed to build like a memorial garden that would have like a statue of Jesus and a statue of little babies, and Jesus looking out of the babies and some trees and like a bench for people to sit on where they contemplated the babies. And it doesn't exist. This was like a few years ago, and they asked him where the money was, and he can't say. And he blamed. So first of all, he blamed the reporter, saying how he knew politics was a nasty business, but he can't believe that a reporter would call up his friends and family and ask about his deceased child. And the reporter's like, they called me because they're pissed off because they wonder where the money went. Right? And then he blamed government bureaucracy, saying that like he couldn't figure out how to get the permitting done to like build a memorial site. And then he said, well, they didn't raise enough money to do what he wanted to do. So he's blaming the people who donated for not fucking donating enough. But anyway, it still won't answer the question of where the money went.
Yeah, this guy's from where else? Tennessee, of course. And like this whole story is like, it's hard for me because as a dad, I'm very, very, very sensitive to anything that has to do with kids and any sort of distress, or let alone dead children. So like a father starting a GoFundMe for a stillborn baby, it's one of those things. It's like kind of dystopian, but it's also like, it just makes me sad in an empathetic way, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I like the idea that, and we don't have all the details, we don't know what all happened, but the idea that a guy could do that and then just keep all the money and not like that, they could exploit their dead child to just enrich themselves. Like, I cannot devise for you mentally a bigger piece of shit in my personal estimation than that. Like, I don't think there's anything lower than that. And maybe if there's something else, this story or whatever that I don't know, then okay, fine. But like, it seems like he had a stillborn child. He posted a GoFundMe. He got a response from it. People's compassion spoke out, sent him all this money. And from all we could tell, he just kept it. And I cannot think of a shittier way to be than that. Like it really, really, really bothers me a lot. Like if that's what he actually did, this dude is the lowest of the low, and which is really saying something in the realm of Tennessee politics. And he should go fuck himself.
It is possible he did something like maybe he'd possibly donated the money for charity, but all he did was say that, and the reporter
he would say that, right? He would just say that. Like if that's what he did, he would just say that, and nobody would have a problem with it. But the fact that he won't answer the question, I mean, what other conclusion are you supposed to draw? You know?
Yeah. The reporter even was like, "This doesn't even have to be a story. Just tell us where the money is, and this is the end of it." And he's like, "Nope." Just ran away.
Right.
So, because like if you say you gave it to X organization, the next phone call is going to be to the organization. So you can't even just like lie about it.
I do kind of want to give a mini shout out to News Channel 5 though, in Tennessee, but just because like we've had a lot of their shit on the show recently, because in the fucking carnival hellscape that has been Tennessee politics lately, News Channel 5 is apparently holding some of these people to task, or like trying to make them answer for some of this stuff, and I just want to let them know that I appreciate that, because it would be real easy to just not,
right.
like in a state like Tennessee, in the current state of it. But it seems like they're trying to keep it pretty real, so I appreciate that.
Shout out all the news that's fit to the best, whatever. What's a local news expression? What do they say? Like we're on your side or whatever. It's like a local news says. Another news story. First off, well, this is about a week old, but so it turned this guy who got deported to Brazil, is saying that it's George Santos' fault because he was accused of running credit card skimmer frauds, where that's where you like put little devices to skim the cards to get the numbers off of them in ATM machines. And he says that Santos taught him how to do it, was the mastermind of this skim fraud ring. So this is pretty funny. It's possible the guy's just butthurt over being deported, but I think, no reason not to believe him. You can tell me, like, I'm not going to disbelieve any bad story about George Santos at this point.
Right.
So yeah.
Which is kind of ironic because you're not going to believe any positive story. Like anything that he says, you're going to default to not believing it. But anything negative about him, you're going to default to believing it.
Yeah. He was apparently, because this guy, I guess he would fly from Florida to Seattle to do the fraud, which the FBI says is common because you don't want to you don't want to pull this kind of thing in your own neighborhood. So that's where he got busted. But Santos was asked about it, since you brought up what Santos said, and he said, no, he wasn't in on it. He was he was questioned, but he wasn't in on it. He was an informant, so he was an undercover agent for the FBI, is what he's saying here. So yeah. Anyway, this fucking guy. Lastly, before we get, one more thing after this, actually, but so now's are out for DeSantis. I'm not talking about just Trump world, I'm about his own former staffers. There's this deep dive into like why his staff thinks he's so off-putting. They're basically saying he doesn't have the juice for a national campaign, and I gotta say I agree, because he's not just apparently off-putting on camera, he's off-putting interpersonally. And the anecdotes in this are great. For example, they say like a 2019 flight from Tallahassee to DC, he was in a meeting and just like in a plane, just eating pudding with his fingers. Like,
okay, well, listen, I got to be honest with you, Mark. Far be it from me, because I have a specific story that relates directly to this. Okay, I can't go too hard on DeSantis in this particular instance because of this. Years ago, me, Corey, and Drew, we had a stand-up show in Brooklyn, right? And we were there a day early. And the show was on Sunday. So we're there on Saturday. Tennessee plays Texas A&M that day, right? It's in the fall. I find a Tennessee Vols bar in Manhattan, and I go to it, and we lost, of course, but it was an incredible atmosphere. All these other Tennessee fans in the middle of Manhattan. I loved it. It was great. So I'm a little drunk. That night, Sturgill Simpson is playing a show in Brooklyn. So I leave this concert. I'm already pretty drunk. I go to a fucking Sturgill Simpson show and get progressively drunker, right? At this show, there's Corey and Drew, and also this real top level producer, his brother who works with him, and I'm just leaving their names out for whatever legal reasons. I don't know. They're great people. But anyway, he's like, and I hadn't met him yet. Like, we're about to start working with these really successful people with a production company, and the guy's brother is there, right? I meet him. We go to the show. I cry throughout. This was the A Sailor's Guide to Earth tour. So Sturgill's just singing about fatherhood and stuff. I'm a weeping mess the whole time, right? I've just met this producer who wants to work with us. We get a cab together on the way out of there, right? Me, him, and Corey. But before we get to cab, me and Corey see a Popeyes across the street. So we go to the Popeyes and get, a bucket of chicken and some mashed potatoes with gravy, right? We get that. We get in the back of the car with this producer who we've just met, and he's taking us all to Queens or wherever we were all at, right? And on the way, me and Corey were taking our bare fingers, scooping up mashed potatoes with gravy, dipping that into the fried chicken, detritus, like the chicken crumb, the crumbs at the bottom of the bucket, right? So you got fingers covered with mashed potatoes and gravy. You dip them into fried chicken crumbs, right? Now you got a nice little popsicle. We're feeding those to each other, right? So I'm shoving my So I'm shoving my chicken gravy fingers into Corey's mouth. He's shoving his into my mouth. We're both just like fucking sucking them off and talking about how great it is. in front of this dude who wants to work with us, who we've just met for the first time. So my point is, far be it from me to shit on Ron DeSantis for this particular thing, eating pudding with his fingers. Like, it would make me a bit of a hypocrite.
Couple of things. The first one's a question. Did you continue working with this guy for a long time?
Dude, I want to tell you what happened. I want to tell you what happened, but I shouldn't. I'll tell you afterwards.
Okay,
it's really fun. It's pretty funny, but
I don't want
to put them on blast or nothing. But yeah,
but that's a long for the audience. That's a long no. Secondly,
no, we didn't. No, we didn't. But it wasn't because of me and my gravy fingers. That's all I'm saying.
Secondly, are you the governor of Florida? Third. What's interesting to me is not that he eats pudding with his fingers. I'm sure we've all eaten pudding with our fingers. It's why are people laying in the tall grass with this story? They smack him with it. They don't like him. That's what's interesting to me about this. Because that guy. Imagine if you got your own talk show or something, and you start seeing that story in the fucking newspaper. Like, why is that guy doing this to me? All right, so because let me read this quote. He would sit in meetings and eat in front of people, the former Xana staffer told the Daily Beast, always like a starving animal who's never eaten before, getting shit everywhere. So, he's eating pudding like the fucking Swedish chef, and this guy banked that memory to shank him later, and that's the part that hits for me.
But that's the type of thing that type of thing used to torpedo a political campaign, literally just that, I feel like for a very long time in this country, it's like if you're running for president or something, demonstrative proof could come out that you eat pudding with your fingers, and the whole country would be like, well, he's out. You know what I mean? But we no longer live in that world, dude. Fucking Howard Dean, he got torpedoed for saying "wah" really enthusiastically. That killed his whole campaign, right? But now, because of what we're going to be talking about a little bit later in the show with Trump and all his indiscretions, there's no line for any of that. You can do whatever and still hang in there,
I was listening, so yeah, you're right. The other examples that Dan Quayle misspelling potato. What's his name? Or Michael Dukakis wearing the weird hat in the tank, right? All that stuff would, but there's just too much news now. It's hard for anyone's story to stick. It's just if the pudding thing happened in 1986, there'd be 5 SNL sketches about it. Everyone would see.
He'd be done. He'd be done.
Yeah. But it's just it's too much fucking news, the 24-hour cycle, and so much shit going on in the world. But also with the Trump stuff, we're going to talk about 50 Trump scandals today, and half of them I've fucking forgotten about. But anyway, so one of the things before we get to the show, we talked on Friday's episode, Patreon app, about this state senator in Nebraska named Michaela Kavanaugh, who'd been mounting a 3-week filibuster. And I wanted to say I misunderstood something because she had come to an agreement. For the audience who doesn't know, the Republicans were trying to pass an anti-trans bill, and she basically occupied the floor of the Senate for 3 weeks and would not let anything pass. And that's half the legislative session, there passed 0 bills. So her exact quote I will burn this session to the ground. And so far she has. And she came to an agreement late last week to stop the filibuster so they could debate the bill. And I thought that meant she was going to allow a vote on it, but it's not.
Right.
So I wanted to give her more props. So what happened was she allowed debate, during which debate she got 3 or 4 other Democratic state senators to commit to helping her with this filibuster. So the burning the session to the ground will continue if they try to pass this bill after they debate it. And also they got a bunch of Republicans to say a bunch of ridiculous shit on camera. So Democrat doing politics. You like to see it every now and then.
Yeah. Hell yeah. All right. Well, let's get into it. With us, as always, is producer Matt. This is Weekly Skews. I'm in Montana. Mark's in his normal locales. We're going to have a good time. Before we continue, I do want to remind you, of course, of 3 minor items of business. Number 1, if you'd like to see me perform live, please go to TreyCrowder.com. Check out all the dates. I'll be on the East Coast this weekend. Got Virginia, Maryland, Philly, all coming up this weekend. A lot of other great dates after that. I'm still adding new ones all the time. Some of those are with Corey and Drew. They are clearly delineated as being well-read dates. The rest of them are me with local support. Either way, you'll have a good time. I promise you. So go to TreyCrowder.com and come and see me. Number two, in other Trey Crowder news, my special Damn Boy is available on Amazon right now. You can get it by itself. You can also get the full well-read comedy special extravaganza, which includes Corey and Drew specials as well. You can do whatever you want to do. Get on Amazon, search for it, and check it out. I think you'll enjoy it. All right. And then lastly, if you enjoy this program and you would like to show your support, you could do so by signing up on Patreon. You can go to weeklyskews.com/more, or you can just go on Patreon and look for my name, search for my name. Either way works. $5 a month gets you access to full-length bonus episodes. We've done a whole bunch of them. We cover things we don't have time to get to in the main Skews Day show, or just things we find interesting that happens in between, or just whatever. Either way, it's a lot of fun. We hope you'll check it out and show your support in the process. Go to weeklyskews.com/more, or go on Patreon and look me up. Sign up on there, get some more Skews in your life. Now, as for the show tonight, on Saturday, Donald Trump declared that on this very day, he would be arrested. Yet, as we sit here, it is 8:22 on the East Coast, and so far, no handcuffs. The question is, given all the lies he's told, why did we believe him in the first place? Is this actually going to happen? Is it what he ever says going to happen? It's hard to say. We're going to break all that down, as well as the myriad legal cases he has raging at the same time, a little later. But first, we begin with the Daily Dumbass. Matt, graphic, please. Tonight's DD, anybody who thought Jesse Waters of Fox News didn't know how babies are made. This is his thoughts on the Stormy Daniels situation.
Alvin Bragg's bringing to the table. There's no proof Trump slept with Stormy. There's no baby. And Trump didn't use campaign funds. Alvin.
I don't know why this killed me so hard. It's like, does he think every time you fuck him?
Right.
This might explain a lot of their policies, actually.
Right. Well, if you get accused of fucking around or whatever by your spouse, you'd be like, "Well, ain't no baby. You see a baby around here?" No, that's what I thought. And shut your goddamn mouth. Like, of course, it doesn't work that way. There's a whole lot of other, steps you got to go through to prove that type of thing outside of just a baby. I don't. Do you know what the numbers are? Like they're pretty low, right? Like for having a sexual encounter resulting in a baby, statistically speaking, despite what like Alabama's teen moms numbers would lead you to believe, like it's actually pretty statistically unlikely, right?
I mean, most people I know that were trying to have babies took a while, but it is
right.
It's funny. We're talking about Trump having sex with a porn star who's literally had sex on camera thousands of times. So I guess Jesse Waters thinks she has thousands of babies.
Thousands of babies, right? Yeah.
Oh, God. Oh, it's all so stupid. But yeah, we got so much show to get to tonight. We only have one dumbass, but really the honorable mention dumbass is everyone involved in this segment, because Trump has broken all of our fucking brains to such a degree that nobody can think sanely anymore. Like, I saw a bunch of otherwise sensible people arguing that Trump being indicted would be good for him.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about otherwise sensible, but I know that I don't know if she was arguing it'd be good for him, but like Marjorie Taylor Greene, her whole thing was like, I hope they realize that if they do this, he's only going to become more popular. It's like that. Like all that's going to do is rally everybody in support of him.
Sure, Republican primary voters, because they have opposition of defiance disorders. Like anything you tell them is bad, they're going to think is good, right? But that doesn't mean a normal sane person is going to love Trump more when he's on trial for cheating on his. I'm not sure when exactly Barron was born in relation to this, but he was either just born or Melania was pregnant with her with a porn star, not just one porn star. We're going to get to it, but 3 porn stars and a Playboy model. So like, this is like the idea that this is going to turn on this like a suburban mom is like fucking crazy to me. But like, anyway, to start where we're starting here, the only reason there's an expectation Trump was going to be indicted today is because Trump said so, right?
Right. Yes.
And to assume he's not making shit up is a pretty big leap at this point.
Absolutely. You're so right. So he said so on Saturday, and I made one of my videos about it. And I said in it that I never thought I'd see the day, that I was still skeptical. I said all that, but I also said, the man himself says it's going to happen, so why not? But in retrospect, I feel dumb for having said that because of like all the other shit he has said. Like, that's like the main thing he's known for, is saying things that aren't true or do not happen. So I don't know why. I guess in my head, I was just like, well, this is bad for him. The idea of this is bad for him, which as a raging narcissist, he would never say, or he would never admit to. So if he's saying it himself, then it must be true. But I kind of feel silly for that in retrospect, like just given the way he is and his track record, like he's got some angle or something, right? Like,
right. Well, he's got. Well, I do think it means he thinks he will be indicted at some point, right? I think. Well, one, he got a huge fundraising bump out of this. So that's good. Now he gets 2 rounds of fundraising bumps. Now, when he says it's about to happen, and whenever it actually does happen, he also, drawing the distinction, got a bunch of Republican leaders to commit to him, which isn't exactly a primary endorsement, but it's really close to it because they can't help but criticize the liberal New York DA who's going after their demigod. So, like, he gets his name back in the news in a way that's good for people who are likely to vote for him in a primary. By the way, he did a poll over the weekend. This is after this news came out. He's still polling over 50% of Republican primary voters. So he locked them in. He's ahead of DeSantis by 28 points, if you're curious. But this is sort of a story about how, like, the rest of the world's largely moved on.
Hey, I'm sorry, real quick, just since you brought that up, I don't know how to feel about that. Like, how do you feel about that?
About Trump beating DeSantis?
By that much at this stage of the game where we're at. Like, how's that make you feel? What do you take away from that?
I don't know, man. Prediction's a mug's game. I thought Hillary beating Trump was a layup in 2016. I thought it'd be really funny to watch.
I thought that DeSantis. I mean, we've talked about it a bunch. Like, before DeSantis ever even emerged as DeSantis, we were talking about how, like, oh, what's really scary is the people that will emerge in the post-Trump era who are Trump, but they're like also competent. They're not fucking full-bore lunatics like he. Well, I mean, they are, but you know what I mean. They're like actually, they're not complete dipshits. And I had thought Ron DeSantis. I was like, he's here. They've arrived. It's that guy. That's the guy. That's the guy we were all worried about showing up. He's here now, right? But is it just you can't coach that thing when it comes to Trump? Do you know what I mean? Like, like you could try to emulate it all you want, but there's just something else about it. Like, I don't know. I'm not gonna lie. I'm kind of surprised. I thought that, like, because we talk about Trump's popularity dwindling, and I know this weekend with him calling for protests, I think we've got some clips and some images and stuff of how those turned out, and it seems like he's falling off. But at the same time, he's dominating DeSantis by 28 points. Like, I just can't make heads or tails of none of this shit, is what I'm saying. Like, I don't know how to think about any of it.
They're Republican primary voters who were torn between Trump and DeSantis. So I think trying to put your head in their space is not a fucking. Just don't even.
Well, that's the most common mistake I make on this show.
Yeah.
It's like the longest running thing with me on the show is trying to make sense of
of
the nonsensical that's going on in their brains. But anyway, go ahead.
If you're asking me who's more likely to win the primary, I think it's definitely Trump if he's alive. And if you're asking me if he's not the nominee, it's probably because he makes some sort of plea deal to not participate in politics anymore that he'll immediately break. And if you're asking me who I'd rather Biden or her face in the general, I guess I go Trump because he's already lost the popular vote twice, and people might. Right. But also DeSantis is terrible on camera. DeSantis is terrible on camera. He's putting with his fingers. I don't fucking know. Who knows? All right, so this is a story about Republicans being unable to let go of Trump no matter how much of an anchor around him is, and also them dithering for no fucking reason because they're also fighting the last battle, like the last war, like they always are. But so to put this in context about where the status of all the investigations around Trump are, there are 6 investigations, court investigations of Trump going right now that I can count that we know about, and I thought it was just 5, but there's a new one thrown in the pile in the last couple of weeks that I didn't know about yet. But in case you don't know what they all are, I'll let Trump introduce a few of them if you got this video, Matt.
Whether it's the Mar-a-Lago raid or the Unselect Committee hoax, the perfect Georgia phone call, it was absolutely perfect, or the Stormy Horseface Daniels extortion plot. They're all sick, and it's fake news.
All right, so
they couldn't get him no better lighting than that. Is it the lighting or is it the makeup or what is it? But he looks like a caricature of himself right there. Like we all know about the raccoon eye, the reverse raccoon eyes he has, but they're really prominent in that example. That's like Trump at his Trumpiest, dude. Fucking Stormy Horseface Daniels, the Georgia call, which was so perfect, couldn't have been more perfect. It's wild. Am I frozen or is Mark frozen? What's happening? Mark's frozen. Matt says Mark's frozen. Is that correct, Matt? Send me a private chat. He's back. Matt says. I still don't see him.
Okay.
Sorry.
Oh, am I back?
Okay. I think you're back now. Okay.
All right. So, all right, let's run through all the investigations of him. All right, you got the classified documents thing, which Trump just talked about. You got the DOJ's investigation to like January 6th and the coup plot, right? No one knows what's going on with any of these. There has been some movement lately. Special counsel locked in at least 8 secret court battles involved in these investigations, trying to get cooperation. This week, one of Trump's lawyers is ordered to testify, and Pence said he won't completely contest his subpoena, so that's good. But like, before we get to the rest of them on the DOJ investigations, what the fuck is taking so long, man? Like, it's just like
right.
If Trump, like, people keep talking about, well, they're going to get, like, talking about the Stormy Daniels thing. It's like getting Al Capone on tax evasion. No, it's not. It's not like that, because no one thought when the government could only get Al Capone on tax evasion, they had legalized murder. All right, but if you don't push back against the coup attempts,
right.
This is about like the basic pillars of constitutional government, and
I mean, that's kind of what I've been thinking the whole time. Like, yeah, the whole Al Capone tax evasion thing. This whole time I've been like, really, it's going to be that's the thing that's going to take him down. I don't know how you don't have a very pessimistic takeaway from that situation. And yeah, you talk about the DOJ. What are they doing? It's like, because if the New York's Attorney General's office manages to levy actual charges related to the Stormy Daniels case, to me, all that does is raise further questions about what the fuck the DOJ is doing then. Like, because I've said for weeks, months, however long, I've been saying I didn't expect shit to happen, because that's just the way things go in this country. Mm-hmm. Like, people like him, they don't face consequences. It just doesn't happen. Do I want it to happen? Of course. Do I think it's going to happen? Not for a fucking second, right? But if the New York AG manages to like bring something against him for this porn star shit, the implication of that is that it could also happen in the cases of sedition and election fraud, right? Hypothetically. So then the question becomes, why is that not happening then? Like, I just thought we didn't do it at all, right? But if we're going to do it even a little bit, then what about these other objectively larger offenses he has that nothing has happened in regards to for this long? Like, what the fuck is that about? What are they waiting for? Why?
I think, look, you and I are pretty cynical about this stuff anyway, but like, this is like more agreed. Like, so Nixon didn't go to prison for Watergate, but he was forced to resign. Like, there was some fucking consequence. He died like sort of disgraced. There was a story this week that confirmed what we all already knew, that Ronald Reagan had conspired to keep the Iranian hostages held longer to fuck Jimmy Carter. Like, a couple people did go to jail over Iran-Contra, but they got pardoned. Bill Clinton should have fucking resigned over the Monica Lewinsky shit for reasons we don't need to get into. Nobody's in prison for any of the Iraqi war crimes, including Ron DeSantis, who tortured people at Gitmo. The 2008 financial collapse. No one's in fucking trouble for that. Opioid epidemic. No one's in trouble for that. But like, if DOJ's in his office asked, they're basically admitting that political corruption is legal, and elites, like as you're saying, are generally above the law as long as what they do isn't really tacky shit like fucking a porn star. All right. So like,
I think today is the 20-year anniversary of the bombing of Baghdad. Yeah, the shock and awe campaign in Iraq, and it's like, yeah, that happened 20 years ago today. It kicked off, and it's like, no one how is none of that shit war crimes? Like, how is there not? Do you know what I mean? Knowing what we know now, knowing that it was all bullshit from the very beginning, none of that ever mattered, right? And it won't ever matter. Like, there's not ever going to be any repercussions for that. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. Like, it's just, the rules are just different, man. They're just different at certain levels of society. The rules are not the same in so much as they even exist at all, So.
Yeah. So the third investigation that probably won't go anywhere is the one in Atlanta led by Fani Willis, a DA in Fulton County. So that's the one about the perfect phone call Trump talked about. Fourth is this set of investigations, some criminal, some civil, into Trump's corporate enterprises. That's the one where Alan Weisselberg went to jail and the Trump organization got in trouble. Trump organization got convicted, even though a lot of nobody else but Alex Weisenberg did. Those are still ongoing. Maybe there's more about that. There was supposed to be, Trump's trying to delay that case. There's supposed to be a hearing about $250 million in fraud, a lawsuit related to that today, but it got pushed back because someone called in a bomb threat after the indictment announcement. But the bomb threat, no one knows. It turned out to be deemed not credible, and no one knows it was related to Trump at all. It's a big courthouse and a wide variety of crazy people out there. Fifth is the long-running investigation that this one we're talking about, the Stormy Daniels thing that Alvin Bragg is leading, and the hush money payment to Stormy Daniels. But I also think, we'll get into it. I don't think it's just related to Stormy Daniels. This is the one that Trump said he's going to be arrested on Tuesday for, and called on his followers to protest, which maybe led to the bomb threat. I don't know. And the sixth one, the new one we didn't know about, involves both DOJ and the SEC, and it's about stuff happening, financial shit at True Social. And I read up on it, but it's fraud shit that I couldn't even wrap my mind around what was going on. And that's the first time I thought maybe Trump is smarter than us, because he's like, I didn't understand these fucking words, but it's apparently a pretty high level fraud. Anyway, there is a federal grand jury impaneled, and this was an interesting tidbit in there. Part of it involves two loans totaling $8 million that were wired to Trump media through the Caribbean from entities connected to an ally of Putin. So do with that what you will. Going back to the New York thing, because we're mostly going to be talking about, everyone's assuming this is just about Stormy Daniels, but they also have him dead on some black letter fraud. He did a bunch of shit that's been very public, where he would have an apartment built, like a condo building, and when he wanted to pay taxes on it, would say it was worth $1 billion. We want to get a loan based on it as collateral, say it was worth $3 billion. One of those is a lie. That's fraud.
Right.
So that's
I'm not saying it makes it right either way, but is that standard operating procedure with high level landlords like that? Do you know what I mean? Is that just one of those things that they all do? With the tax loopholes and shit. It's just no, that's just what you do. Right. It's a good example of what I was saying earlier. It's illegal, but they all get away with it because they all do it. And it's that's just what it's Trump in that one debate in 2016, asking about evading taxes. Yeah, that's because I'm smart, that whole attitude.
Yeah, but
is this out of bounds
that doesn't matter. None of that
I know. I know that
everybody speeds, Trey, but when you get caught, that's not a fucking defense, right? If somebody looks into it, you get caught, you're in trouble. So now the bank's not going to press charges because they value Trump as a customer and don't want to fuck with him. But on the other side, the government has an interest in catching tax cheats. So yeah. Anyway, so just to remind everybody the background of the Stormy Daniels thing. If you don't remember, Michael Cohen paid Stormy $100,000 to keep her quiet about an affair with Trump. After dithering, Trump finally reimbursed him early in 2017 after taking office. If you don't remember, the affair itself is hilarious. It happened at began at a celebrity golf tournament in 2006, where Trump was hanging out with Ben Roethlisberger and playing against Ray Romano. He allegedly had sex with 3 or 4 women over the weekend. 3 of them porn stars, and the 4th was a Playboy model. And I do want to say the man was 62 at that point. I gotta give it up for the fucking stamina. Stormy was one of the porn stars. Jessica Drake was another, and I think the Playboy Bunny was Karen McDougal, who'll be talking about in a little bit. And if you're wondering how he did at the golf, by the way, he came in 62nd out of 80. It just made me laugh. So anyway, the crimes it is about Stormy Daniels. It would be how that money was justified and like tax stuff and whether or not it was illegal campaign contribution. But all that has led us to this video clip from Tucker Carlson. Hit it, Matt.
And in fact, settlements like this, whatever you think of them, are common, both among famous people, celebrities, and in corporate America. The result is usually known as an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement. In this case, you can believe whatever side you want to believe, but paying people not to talk about things, hush money, is ordinary in modern America.
All right. So it's perfectly normal to cheat on your wife with 4 different women in one weekend with a newborn at home and have your lawyer pressure them to sign NDAs.
I do think that like show me the lie. Like, I think he's right about like the world he operates. It is normal in that world, but to present it as a rationale for why it should be fine is the part that, you know, pisses me off. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like, yeah, he's not wrong. All those fucking plutocrat motherfuckers, they do that all the time. But but that don't make it okay, you know, like, but you could just tell people like, yeah, that's what everybody does. They're like, yeah, it's what everybody does. But like,
I do want to remind people that the only reason Tucker Carlson has his job is because the previous guy in his time slot was busted for a bunch of sexual harassment by women who broke their NDAs. So that's full circle moment here. So congrats to Tucker on his promotion because women came forward and broke their NDAs. But I've signed a few NDAs in my life. Most of them were just to like stop you from telling people about work you did for them. They didn't want people to know you did, like uncredited work. All right. I only said one in my life that they could possibly be connected to covering up any sort of fucking malfeasance. And even that it wasn't like anything serious. It was just like office politics shit. But yes, it's too normal, but like he's not making the point he thinks he is. There are too many NDAs and they're too restrictive. We need just like non-compete clauses and stuff. Unless you're giving away trade secrets, there's no reason to ever have a fucking NDA. And they're going after the New York DA, Alvin Bragg, really hard for this. And that's really fucking funny to me because throughout this process, he's been a sniveling coward. And if you guys don't remember the order of events here, Michael Cohen got 3 years for the exact same crime. He didn't serve all of them, but he got sentenced to them. So indicting Trump after he left office for the same thing should have been a fucking layup when you already got his co-conspirator under the same sentence. All right. But he didn't. In fact, he was slow walking it at that point or sandbagging it, which is why an attorney who worked for him named Mark Pomerantz resigned and called him out for being a coward. And here's a video from Pomerantz on 60 Minutes last month.
Folks, this is one of the darkest days in
that's the wrong video, Matt. Anyway, I'll just tell you what it is. So Pomerantz went on 60 Minutes. Was basically saying that like how easy the investigation was, and he talked about the real estate fraud that I brought up earlier and how they had him fucking dead to rights on this shit. There didn't need to be any contemplating, any dithering, any fucking around. You have a guy who committed fraud on paper and then signed the paper. That's smoking gun. Done. Right?
Right. Yeah.
And when you talk about criminal stuff, yes, everybody commits crimes of varying degrees all the time. And I saw Alan Dershowitz go on and say, well, you look for the crime and then you figure out the person who did it. You don't investigate a person's life to see what crime they did. But the New York City DA has been investigating Trump for all sorts of fraud for 20 years. They know the fraud happened. This isn't like making up a crime and trying to find somebody who fit it or anything like that. We all know that you got to be a fucking moron to think Trump's not a criminal. If you know anything about his business career, making real estate deals with the mob, they already caught him 30 years ago. His dad bailed him out. His casino was going under. So his dad went and bought $3 million worth of casino chips and then just lost them to keep him from going under. Ivanka testified under oath they laundered money for the Iranian Republican Guard, which is designated a terrorist group, their real estate property in Azerbaijan. Like, this isn't like some innocent guy getting harassed. You're like, well, it's unfair. These are old charges to bring him up now. It's like, I don't give a fuck. The guy's a danger to the republic. The dangerous people who you want to fucking put away, right?
Yeah, it seems to me like people in that world that he inhabits. You know, I was saying earlier, I don't expect to ever see him face repercussions because we just don't do that here. And it seems like the only exception to that is when one of those people becomes a threat to the rest of those people. Do you know what I mean? Like Jeffrey Epstein or something. Like like the moment that like they've got a tacit understanding that they are all kind of above the law, it seems to me like. And the only time that's ever proven wrong is when they turn on each other. You know, when somebody becomes a threat to the rest of the fucking fraternity or whatever, then they might go down. But outside of that, it's just not going to happen. And I'll go to my grave believing that if I don't ever see any kind of proof otherwise, you know, it's to me that's how it works.
Martin Shkreli got in trouble for fucking over the rich people eventually, finally. And the same thing with the guy from Enron he was busted for defrauding investors, not all of his employees who killed themselves after he lost.
In the NFL, Dan Snyder, you know, pimped out his cheerleaders, all this shit, all this terrible stuff for years. Nothing ever happened. Then it came out that he was fucking other owners out of money. And now all of a sudden he's about to sell the team or looking to sell the team. You know what I mean? Because like, that's the only rule you can't break is that you can't cross the rest of the club. You know, as long as you don't do that, you're fine. But
what's the line of
threat to the rest of them, then you might be in trouble. Maybe.
What's the line of The Departed where it's like, there's all ultraviolet psychopaths. He goes, that's not a guy you can't hit, but it's almost a guy you can't hit.
Yeah, you can't hit.
You can hit anybody except for the repeat. Right. So anyway, Blagg took office in 2020-21. And in that moment, he was getting roasted from both sides. From the right for being soft on crime because he stopped doing stuff like prosecuting people for subway fare evasion, stealing $2.50 from the city when streets are free. And because he was also getting roasted by the MSNBC types for being soft on Trump. All right, so Blagg then eventually gave up and started the grand jury process, which I assumed at the time was an ass covering process. It's like, well, we tried, nothing more we can do, right? Because prosecutors hate going out on limbs. They don't like losing, and trying a former president is a risky proposition, especially on like sort of tenuous old charges.
Right.
But so then this week, Trump basically called Bragg a bitch and threatened his staff's lives. So now he has to do something or he looks incredibly feckless and weak, even though he already looked feckless and weak. So here we are. Now they actually do expect an arraignment next week, but probably only going to happen because Trump ran his mouth. But also, an underreported element of this is Trump did threaten a bunch of violence and then nothing happened. So Bragg has nothing to be afraid of, right? Because
today was supposed to be the day of like the streets were supposed to be on fire today, right? Like he said, you know, Tuesday. Today was the day. Take to the streets, fight back, take the nation back. I'm in a pretty red state up here in Montana. I see some kids skateboarding. Some snow on the ground. It's about all I see in the streets out here. I'm not seeing the mayonnaise brigade taking the country back where I'm at.
Yeah. So Fox News went all in too. We don't have to show the video map, but like trying to gin up violence. People saying like this will tear the country apart, and the people will not stand for it. Jesse Waters said that this would be like putting all 74 million of Trump's voters in jail. So how did the people show up for Trump today? Show the video. This is yesterday, actually. Show the video.
One more time.
That, Mark. You see the flare of that banner wheel coupled with the horn? Come on. What are you going to do?
He's lost the juice, man. He's lost it.
This right here, this is exactly what I was talking about at the very beginning of the show. Like, it's hard for me to reconcile this with the polling numbers as compared to DeSantis and all that shit. I don't know what to make of it. You know what I mean? Because, like, on the one hand, it feels like you said, he's lost the juice. But then on the other hand, he's stomping him into his only real competition into the ground. Like, I don't.
Right. But there's no real competition.
I just don't know what to think or what to make about any of that shit.
I don't know why it's that confusing. You know how sometimes an NFC, like an NFL division, will have somebody make the playoffs with a 7-9 record.
Right, but if the MAGA crowd are the equivalent of the NFC South this year, right, where the division winner has a losing record, then like what are we all so worried about? You know what I'm saying? NFC South is they're not a threat to the rest of the league in terms of the Super Bowl. Do you know what I'm saying? But it's like, we're like, no, we're on the verge of fucking Civil War Part 2, World War III over here. That's where the cultural war is at. It's like, which one is it? You know what I mean?
Because
should we
Trey,
just be laughing at them, or like, is shit really about to go down? Like, which one is it? And I vacillate between the two.
It's both. It's both. It's
Okay.
not super confusing to me. It takes one radicalized person to shoot up a fucking Walmart in El Paso, right?
Right.
It takes one person to shoot up a gay bar in Colorado. It takes 4 or 5 Proud Boys to fucking firebomb a drag show. It takes it only took like a couple thousand people to January 6th that came in from all over the country. They can be a small minority and terrifying. And when you combine that with the fact that they move the Overton window, provide color for the few air quote sane Republicans who are still in the party, them combined creates enough like political force to control Congress with 46% of the popular vote because of gerrymandering, right?
Yeah.
So they can be a rapidly diminishing minority and also a threat to the republic at the same time.
Yeah.
All right.
That does make sense to me, and you've made me feel a little better about it. Appreciate that.
Yeah, so they because of the fears around Trump's base, they put up like a bunch of like fencing and barriers around the courthouse. And there was, not being totally fair, the protest we just showed at Trump Tower where there were 5 people and one woman with a shofar wasn't supposed to be the big one. The other one was supposed to be this one was supposed to be the big one. It was hosted by New York Young Republicans Club, and there were 5 times as many reporters there as Trump supporters. And a couple of the reasons for this are really funny to me because he does have more support than people who showed up. But Trump has convinced his own people that any sort of MAGA protest is ginned up by federal agents who are trying to entrap them. So he sabotaged his own support with conspiracy theories. And protest organizers who were there admitted they thought turnout was low because they're spooked by Trump's own talking points about protests being federal agent traps. Even the people who showed up at this protest, Trey, accused their fellow protesters of being federal agents.
Yeah. That's what, like, and yet there's such a threat. Because I mean, like, they do feel like a threat, but it don't make me feel good about myself that that's true. You know, it's like pretty low bar, it seems like.
But that's why it's important to that's why it's important, like, having somebody with a megaphone to rally even a small group of insane people is dangerous. That's why all these efforts, all these cases should be doing anything they could to expel Donald Trump from the body politic. It's a fucking virus. And it's like they're not acting with any sort of urgency. That like if some fucking black swan event happens again, like 2016, and ends up back in office, he's never leaving. He's never fucking leaving. Anyway, I wanted to show this video from today's protest. The ones we showed you a minute ago were from yesterday. This one had a little bit more energy. If you got this one, Matt, this is fucking hilarious.
Show him the truth. We're gonna fuck Joe Biden. Show him the truth. We're gonna fuck Joe Biden.
All right, so if you just listen to the podcast version, that's a guy dressed like, I think, a bison, maybe as an homage to the QAnon shaman, riding an extra tall bicycle with a Trump flag as a cape, yelling, "We're gonna fuck Joe Biden." Just one guy.
Argue with that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Rock solid political discourse right there.
There's one sort of case that's I know Bill made way too much show. We can't get to it all, but I do want to talk about John Edwards for a second because people are comparing Trump's case to John Edwards, and they're sort of similar because I don't know if you guys remember John Edwards, who ran for president a couple times.
Yeah, 2008, Hillary and Obama in that primary. He was the third guy. It came out that he had been cheating on his wife, right? And his wife was sick or something. It was pretty bad. It was
his wife was dying of cancer, and he got a campaign aide pregnant.
That's about as rough as that situation gets, in my opinion.
So he was accused of hit with pretty similar charges to what Trump could be theoretically facing with Stormy. But the two things are not. And Edwards got off, by the way. He was not convicted. But there's a few things that make this pretty different. One, Edwards had a kid, so like, I want my kid to be able to eat and have a roof over his head is a good reason to funnel money to her. That's not, I'm trying to cover this up for the campaign, right? Also, Edwards' wife didn't know about it, so he could claim, I didn't want my wife to find out as a valid excuse. Melania knew about all Trump's like side pieces. So like, I wanted to save my marriage is not a good motivation. And Karen McDougal, he would theoretically be on trial for the Stormy Daniels stuff, but Karen McDougal's also wrapped up in this because Trump's allies, the National Enquirer, paid her $150,000 to buy her story and then never printed it. So like, and both these things happened during the campaign season. They were 10-year-old affairs. So the question becomes, why now in 2016? The only reason it makes any sense is the election. And we don't have to show the video because we have time, but Trump also went on TV, and he can't even claim he didn't know this was illegal because he went on TV and ran his mouth about John Edwards' case when it was happening because he has to go on TV and run his mouth about everything.
Well, the other thing, and maybe this is maybe stupid to say. I mean, it's like apples and oranges, or it doesn't make sense. But also, I know we're talking about legal repercussions here, but going back to our conversation earlier about Howard Dean and all that stuff, or whatever, like that was the end of John Edwards. Do you know what I mean? Like John Edwards was a Democrat. That happened. And then the entire American left was like, well, not that fucking guy. That guy seems like a shady, duplicitous, ne'er-do-well. And that was the end of his political career, right? Whereas Trump is still the prevailing force in right-wing politics despite all this. So, like, that's another factor I feel like deserves to be pointed out, in my opinion. Like, where they talk about both sides or whatever, it's like, not really, though. Like, it's pretty different, the way the two things were treated.
I think 25-30% of people are hardcore gone. Another 15 to 20 would like to vote Republican if you presented them with the same candidate. But a lot of those are persuadable. And like, you just got to give up. You just got to give up on the 25 to 30 and be like, prosecute him, because the people saying that this would be good for Trump are fucking insane to me. If it's good for Trump, why is he crying about it?
Right.
He knows it's bad for him. Like, he doesn't want every night in the 6 o'clock news, they're only talking about this gross affair with a porn star during like his 6-month trial leading up to the election. Like, how are suburban voters and like sane people going to feel about that? Anyway, so
I don't know. Well, we've only got a couple minutes left, but Matt, if you got a comment or two, you could throw it up there. If you got any, we'll see how that goes.
I do want to say that, like, if Trump did get convicted, he's a first-time felon with no other criminal record convicted of anyway. So, like, he'd probably get probation anyway, but he's still going to fight it tooth and nail. Yeah.
Vesper Moore says, "Dang, I want another hour. Sorry, buddy. The sun's going down in Bozeman. I'm going to be shrouded in the dark here soon. So, I have to call it. Also, I got to get me got a bison burger or something like that. You know, try not to fight with a real cowboy. If you guys have seen Yellowstone, you know how Montana is. No, I don't know. It's a lovely place. It is snowing here. It's snowing here, and it's not actively snowing now, but it's been snowing. And I've been walking around in my thickest winter coat with my hood up and everything, and I've seen 8-year-olds in T-shirts. I swear to God, North is wild. Kim Cusado says, "How's your bracket, Trey? Mine is shot to hell, but I do have Tennessee in my Sweet 16. Normally, I would criticize such a decision, but hey, looking good this year. I didn't do a bracket this year. It was one of those things where it's like, Selection Sunday happens, and 3 days later the shit happens, and I got busy, got caught up, and then it was too late. Mark, did you do a bracket? How's yours look? Everybody's bracket's pretty fucking busted at this point.
Yeah, I mean, a 16 seed beat a 1, so that's going to happen.
Laura Borealis says, "Hit the like button, y'all." Thank you, Laura. Yeah, like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Do it. Terry DeLone says, "My first time to catch you live. I don't know when you mean, maybe this weekend, but either way, it should be fun. I think you'll enjoy it."
Maybe she means right now?
You mean the show live? Either way,
yeah.
Glad you're here. Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate it. But yeah, no, March has been mad as hell this year. It's been the maddest March I can remember in recent memory, and I sure have been enjoying it. I'm waiting for Tennessee to let me down at any given moment, especially when Florida's involved, but we'll see. Thank you, Matt. Appreciate it. I don't know why I said that. I thought he put up the thing. Let's go. Anyway, fucking goddamn. Listen, before we go, as a reminder, you go to TreyCrowder.com, check out the dates, check out the special on Amazon, mine, Corey's, Drew's, all of the above, if you wish. TreyCrowder.com. You can also support this show on Patreon and get bonus material in the process. WeeklySkews.com/more. or you can go on Patreon, search my name. You'll find it. $5 a month, full-length bonus episodes, and show your support. We would appreciate it. Either way, we're glad you keep coming back for the main show every Skews Day. As long as you keep doing that, we'll keep being here, keep making them. And with that said, I'll see y'all back in my regular climbs next Tuesday.